Welcome to Game Bird Spotlight, a product of the North American Game Bird Association. We are interviewing tonight. We're bringing in Mike Martz, our president. Now, Mike, has it hit you yet that you are president?
No, not really.
It would have helped if you could have been at the convention.
Yeah. I would have loved to be there.
We understand that, which leads me to ask, how are you doing? How is the leg? You're healing okay? Are you back walking on both? Do you still
Yeah. I've been doing what I love to do, tending chicks since the beginning of April. My ball playing days are probably over. I'm not playing any ball
Nothing. No, those contracts with the Braves are gone, huh?
Yeah. And I've been doing a little bit of turkey hunting, getting around okay. But I just got to be. The doctor said to me, "You're not restricted. Just don't do anything stupid." So I haven't been in a tree stand while turkey hunting.
Yeah, I can understand that one. Well, you said you're in the middle of eggs and all of that. So I think most of our producers are in the middle of the production season. We're gathering eggs, washing eggs, getting the production out there that we need. Hopefully everyone has the contracts on their chicks and they know what they're either raising or they're purchasing. And it seems like the avian influenza but the panic and the, I don't know what the word is. It seems like that has calmed down. Does that seem like it to you?
Well, I think in the poultry world, to a degree, it has. I mean, I know here in Pennsylvania, we haven't had any cases recently in poultry, none that I know of in any dairy cattle. But, obviously with
which is interesting. Yeah, the whole had a herd of dairy cattle in Ohio that actually had avian influenza.
Yeah, so that's scary. Just the fact that they say it can spread from cattle to poultry. So, we're coming into the summer season here. Hopefully that's as normal, in the low transmission time. Let's just hope in the fall it doesn't blow back up.
Right.
That's my hope and prayer.
Well, one of the odd things that happened this last week is somebody sent me an article on lactating goats having avian influenza.
Yes, I saw that as well.
Goats, and the court, of course, the concern is that it spreads to other species, and we really need to maintain biosecurity no matter what the other species is, whether it's a person, whether it's a cow, whether it's a goat. Wash before you go in, clean up, disinfect before you go into your brooder rooms, into your hatcheries, into your breeder flock.
Absolutely. I mean, even cats, for example, I've heard a lot of reports of a lot of cats actually dying on dairy farms with what's going on. So, it's sort of a scary scenario right now.
Yeah, it is. It is, and you have to maintain that biosecurity. You can't control what's outside of your barn. All you can do is have that line, and you control what's inside. So as long as it doesn't matter if that is 3 feet from the door, as long as it doesn't come into your barn, you should be all right.
You can control what you can control, and that's what you need to do, because I think that cuts your chances in half, would be my guess, of getting it. And that's well worth it. That's right. Coming from somebody who's had it, from very likely the USDA said a wild bird transmission is what their guess is based on genome sequencing. So, but hey, if biosecurity is going to cut your chance in half, right, you should be doing it. I'm a firm believer in it, and we had been doing it, and we'll continue to do it.
So you mentioned that you did have it and you've dealt with that. Now, the industry as a whole, you as the president, Rob as our executive director, you're dealing with breeder indemnity. Where are we
That's
at
correct.
on that issue?
So, that committee's pretty much been, Rob as the head executive director, Troy Loudenslegger, Bill McFarland, and myself. Troy has done a tremendous amount of work. I mean, genius work on formulas to give to the USDA to negotiate this because they wanted
the issue right now.
I'm sorry?
What is the issue with it
So,
right now?
So the issue is, they wouldn't accept the same value for 12 months out of the year the way we did before. And it can't be based on future egg production of any type. So it has to be firmly input costs. Well, that can get pretty tricky, and it's, a little bit different depending on the size of your farm and things like that. So, I mean, Troy has done a tremendous amount of work on spreadsheets and the formula. Bill and Rob have done a lot as well. And we've been having several video conference calls with the USDA, and we think we're hopefully close to an agreement.
So summing up, I think what you're saying is no longer can we say a breeder is worth this much because of the potential of that bird to produce so many eggs. Now it's got to be what it takes for you to produce that bird.
Yes, more or less. And that breeder will, there's a peak value. The way the formula is right now, there would be a peak value, which would peak out in March each year. And it would appreciate before March and depreciate after March, as eggs are being laid, obviously, even though we can't necessarily base it on future egg production. But there's a lot of factors that go into play there. The lowest value time would be, after the birds are molded, or right around that molt time when they're done laying.
Mm-hmm.
And our regular, pheasant raised for release pheasant price this year that was approved was actually $18.60 versus the $17.35 last year. That's taken, a sample of large producers across the country. Obviously, we've had input costs go up. Grain's been high. I wouldn't say it's jumped a lot within the last year or two, but it's still high. And biosecurity is a huge issue right now as far as, the amount of money we're putting into that as game farms. So,
wow. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't want to pull a rug out from under anything that's going on, but is the USDA still being as receptive to the input that we have as they've had in the past? Or is there something different this year?
We're working on it. I mean, I feel like our last conference call we had, everything was in good faith. It was a positive conversation. Obviously, we're going to have disagreements at times.
Right. We want as much money as possible. They want to pay as little as possible.
Yeah. So it's kind of like politics, Republican versus Democrat. There's going to be disagreements, and at some point you have to negotiate in good faith. And, that's just what you hope both sides are doing. I know our side we are, and I believe they are too, based on our last conversation. So, nothing is set yet for the breeder. Nothing is approved for the breeder indemnity, but we are working on it, and we're hoping we're close to an agreement.
I think a lot of our members don't know how much work goes into this, dealing with people, trying to bring that issue before people who can make the decisions on our behalf. And so we do appreciate what the health committee has done, all the work that you've put into that. I know it's many, many hours. So you didn't make the conference in Orlando, but word has it, you're going to be able to make the hunting club conference that will be in July out in South Dakota, correct?
Yep. Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls, and July 15th. I don't have the details right in that.
15th. I believe it's the 15th to the 17th. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but looking very forward to it. And yeah, I'm planning to be there, God willing.
Don't get in a tree stand before that.
That's right.
Okay, so why should our members care about the hunting club conference?
Well, we have a huge untapped, as far as NAGA as an association. So right now we're talking about breeder indemnity. We're talking about, all the things NAGA does for our members and even our non-members that are producers.
Yeah,
I,
they can benefit without
they,
paying the cost.
yeah,
Of the right.
that's right. Yeah. But, we have a huge untapped resource in our hunting clubs. And I think, when the hunting club conference started, that you really were responsible for pushing the most out of any, board member. I think we did get a lot of hunting clubs on board, and I think it's been a great thing for the North American Game Bird Association, but we need more. And I think we have a perfect opportunity right now because of all the work that's being done due to avian influenza. I'm not necessarily one that believes that just because there's a crisis, you can't let it go to waste. But
Right.
I will say this is a crisis that could affect anybody in the industry, and everybody should be involved if they really care about the industry and they care about their business.
Right. We've been dealing with issues for the producer year after year after year. And I know last year at that hunting club conference, one of our members went home and he took the information. He was a hunting club operator. He went home, he put that information to use, and he credits being at that conference with saving his operation totally. He only lost 7 hunts, I believe, or 3 hunts, some ridiculous number. And in 7 days, they were up and operating because of the things that he learned about biosecurity and
right.
a backup plan and all
different premises, having different premises to, potentially go with birds. I just had a meeting with one of our customers about 2 weeks ago, and they wanted some advice. And I said, I would have a secondary premise somewhere, outside your control zone or even outside the infected zone that you could bring birds into in the case where you would have it on your main, where you have your pens. And you could be up and operating probably within a week, potentially, if you can demonstrate that you can do it safely. I mean, these are things a lot of people don't know. And just a lot of positive things with that hunting club conference, not just from biosecurity and avian influenza, but, many different aspects. And simply, also the networking and fellowship you have with other hunt clubs.
Right.
Every time, I don't care how many times, like I'll be 47 this month.
Oh,
I've been in this business all my life. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, yeah. But my point is, every time I go to a conference, I learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, over half the time, it's through networking, talking to other people, and picking their brain.
Right.
And I just think it's an excellent
discussions. That discussion in the hallway, over a cup of coffee, over dinner, over lunch.
Yeah.
Very much.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
well, I know the agenda for that is out. For the most part, it's 95% done. I think there's one speaker that still needs to be grabbed. And it's listed on our website. So I will run that across the bottom, NorthAmericanGameBird.com. If you're not a member, you need to look at that conference, look at the things. If you are a member, you need to look at that conference, look at the agenda, if you can't go, find a staff member who could go, bring that information back, share it, bring it to the rest of your staff, and improve the serve of your organization. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Dan Barngrover's done an excellent job chairing that committee, and Sarah Pope, for first vice president, she's invaluable as far as her organizational skills. I think she's an unsung hero that a lot of people don't realize what she does and what the work she puts in to all these conferences. That blows me away.
Right.
How well she has that down, the amount of work that she puts in.
And she'll be our next president. She's currently
That's right.
Vice president. Watch out when she's president. I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen. And
absolutely.
just the leadership, the people that put in, they all have a heart for this industry.
Yeah, yes, all the committee members. I mean, they're involved, they're engaged, and they're doing a great job.
All right, well, let's switch tracks and talk about the possibility of a study. We touched on avian influenza. Now you say there's a study on avian influenza transmission, possibly?
Well, potentially. That's another discussion we have to have as a board. But, it's not going to be something that's going to necessarily be free. It's going to have to be funded. Okay.
Right.
But yes, we know a lot about chickens. We know a lot about turkeys, other birds. We really don't know that much about pheasants. As far as the transmission, there's a lot of details that we would need to get on this, exactly what this study would cover, but it would be the University of Delaware. Dan, I don't know if you met Dan Hohenthaler.
No.
You weren't at the McFarland conference, but some folks on here might remember Dan Hohenthaler, and he also works with the University of Delaware, but he was a gentleman that was actually in charge of our depopulation. He oversaw the depopulation. Without him there, it would not have went near as smooth as what it did. But he also works with the University of Delaware, and he said that they are willing to do that. Once we get through this breeder indemnity, it's going to be a conversation we will have, as a board, as far as whether we feel, we want to help fund this, or if it's worthwhile, if the opportunity cost is there, in folks' opinion. I would personally want to know more about it, but I do think I'm very intrigued by a study that's specific to pheasants and game birds.
Right. That would be awesome. There's so much that is not known. Anytime we have gone to a USDA conference, I know pre-COVID, back in the first outbreak, we went from Oshkosh to Iowa, somewhere in Iowa where they had a conference, and people would ask questions, and the most common answer was, we don't know. Hopefully there's more known this time. Eventually we will find out some key to this thing and be able to beat it.
Yeah. And I'd be very interested to know that as well. Like in our case, we had it in one pen out of 117 pens. I would have liked to test each block as they were depopulated. To me, that made sense. I got shot down. Right. Unfortunately, that's a disagreement. Like everything, went about as good as what it could have under the terrible circumstances. But that was one place I was really disappointed that they wouldn't allow us to do that, because I was willing to pay for the tests and have our poultry, our poultry techs do that. Mm-hmm. But the only thing I do know is we had delivered birds that same week. Actually, it was the day that we actually didn't get diagnosed, but pulled the samples. We had a pen that was adjacent to there. It was probably about 40 yards away. Those birds ended up going to New York State and were delivered the morning after, before we knew we had it, AI, and they tested negative a week later. And of course, those hunting clubs then that had them in their pens were released from their quarantine. So, that I felt good about, that we didn't track it back and forth between these pens, but also, from a transmissibility standpoint, that it didn't get into those pens.
Right.
And they're relatively close.
Well, there's some inequities across the industry. Why do you have to kill perfectly healthy birds? If you would test them and they were not diagnosed with it, why do you have to do that? Oh, the regulations as they stand say you take everything in this. Well, we didn't see that with the cows. We're not seeing it with the goats. But you're seeing it with pheasants, where
you're seeing it with all poultry. If it's a premise, right, by law, that's what they're doing. the best thing to do is try to get more premises. I mean, there's more headaches that go with that. I just had a meeting yesterday with a farmer that is 4 air miles away from here, and we're actually bulldozing pens at our old pens at our farm, and we're going to be renting property from him and building over there, because at least we would be out of the infected zone if we were to get it, and we'd be able to still supply our birds. If we could get our hands on birds, we could have them in there. We would have to forfeit our indemnity if we got AI there by bringing birds in technically into a control zone. But, you know, that's a chance I'd be willing to take as long as we're outside of the infected zone. And it would be a different premise. It would be taken care of by one employee. That's the only place they would be. And, you know, there wouldn't be any cross contamination. So we could say it's not a dangerous contact.
I think we've seen some change of thought over the years. We were paid to build wetlands on our property. We used to like ducks. We used to think it was fun to see the geese on the pond.
Oh, me too.
Here, it just, at one point we had pass shooting, so we were purchasing ducks.
Yep.
And now you think about that and think, how in the world?
I know.
Just all sorts of things. No matter where we are, there are different things that'll hit us, and we'll think, why did I react like that? Well, because of the avian influenza.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you just
it's. I used to love to waterfowl hunt,
right.
And I don't waterfowl hunt because I don't even want to be anywhere close to. You know, the last 3 years I haven't hunted waterfowl because of that.
Yeah.
So,
all right. One more topic. We've had in the past people who want to be, they're in a group, a regional group, what you and I kind of dubbed regional affiliates.
Yes.
Regional groups like Southeast Game Birds or Pennsylvania Game Birds or Michigan, elsewhere. And we've been approached in the past about pulling them in somehow into the NAGA by having your information published in the magazine. They would be getting good content, be part of us by being part of the other. And it hasn't been developed yet. We know that. You and I and several others were on the call trying to develop this. But as our fearless leader, Rob Sexton, has said, there's only so much bandwidth you can give to enough topics, enough projects. And so this is one that is on the back burner. It is there when the breeder indemnity and anything else there is accomplished, then we will devote more to this. What are you seeing, or how do you want to, what would you say about this?
Well, I completely agree with Rob on the bandwidth. I kind of think of it as, I was always taught, you don't want to fight a war on too many fronts. And that's kind of, you got to focus and take care of business. So it's something on like my personal agenda as president that I want to see happen during my term. I'd really like this to come up for discussion at our next board meeting when that time comes. But I want to get this. I think this breeder indemnity is obviously our #1 issue right now.
Yeah.
And obviously the hunting club conference, that's really coming together well with the vendors and exhibitors. But we also want to, we want to get that filled up and focus on that as well. Our goal, the hunting club conference this year, is 200. And you know what our goal, our goal was 2 years ago? I think it was 50.
Right.
And we got 80.
Yeah.
And last year our goal was 80 and we got 120.
Something like that. Yeah. And so I'm very pleased to see the direction that it's going.
But I do think, go ahead. Peg.
I'm scrolling your email across the bottom. I want people who have thoughts to contribute to this to be able to contact you. So remember, there is an X at the end of your name. Remember to put that in, but you can write that down and contact Mike directly with your thoughts about the NAGA affiliates as well as any of these other topics. All right, last call on that. I'm going to go and show the Hunt Club, the website, NorthAmericanGamer.com, which has the information on the Hunting Club Conference. It has information on becoming a member. While that's scrolling across, you were starting to say something and I interrupted you. So we were talking about the Hunt Club and getting people in.
Yeah, no, all I was saying is when you had asked about how I feel about the regional affiliates, I 100% think it's, would be a good thing to get everybody on the same page. I think it's important for the state associations to still have their independence in their association. But I just think with a lot of things, it would also benefit them to at least, if we could have regional affiliates and they would become associate members and at least get our bulletins, I think that would be a great thing for everybody.
Right. I think if you look at most conservation organizations, Pheasants Forever, Turkey Federation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, they have different chapters. They're all part of the main organization, but they have different chapters, but they don't put out their own magazines. They don't have to bear that cost. And so this would be a way to get good content to them, good information, timely messages. I can't believe how many people we talk to that say, oh, I didn't know I had to have an indemnity plan. I didn't know I had to have whatever. And I feel like we have been talking about this for 8 years, since 2015, all this going on. I feel like we've talked and beaten it to death. Other parts, just the biosecurity, and people, oh, really? I need to worry about that? Yes, you do. The education through getting the magazine and being part of, being able to see things on our live stream and so on.
And also, one thing is, I can tell you from personal experience with negotiating with folks in the USDA, the more people that are on the same page from an industry and represent the industry well, will give our industry more respect and make it much easier for us to negotiate and be taken seriously.
Right. I think we all know that person, the one who doesn't represent us well, and we think, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen there. And you just hope that they don't. It doesn't. But the people who do, like you said, do what they need to do, whether it's raising the birds, whether it's having a hunt club, that is awesome. You do it well and you get respect and you get a much better response. You have company.
Yeah.
Well, we've just been like, okay. Any other thoughts before we sign off here? We appreciate it.
I don't think so. I just wish everybody the best, and I just hope and pray that this avian influenza situation continues to subside, and that all our members stay clear of it, and that everybody just has a great growing season, because this is a relaxing time of year in some ways.
I was pressed into service. One thing we didn't talk about is the need for workers. We've had a horrible time this year keeping workers. So I actually got to wash eggs with Sam.
Yeah, you told me that.
Do that for a long time, or counting chicks and feeling. So there's something fun about holding that egg and knowing there's the potential in there for the chick. And then on hatch day, holding that fuzzy little body that's so warm and comforting, thinking that process yielded this, and it is just, I think we've got a great industry. We have grandkids that are helping with the chicks, and hopefully we can continue to run these businesses.
We have a great industry, and we got to all continue to fight for the industry.
That's right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. I'll take Mike out now, and we appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. And let us know if you have questions, comments, and we'll get back to you.